Welcome to ChromeIllusion.com. I'm Stephen Burns. One of the problems we have as artists and photographers is dealing with the concept of gaining depth or three-dimensionality through our images. We do this through the control of values. And by giving ourselves a deeper, darker value, we can utilize these deeper, darker tones to push medium range information or medium grays and highlights to the foreground, giving us a much more of a three-dimensional look. Now, what I'm going to share with you is how to calibrate your white points and black points so in levels so that they help us to achieve this. All right. Now, we're looking at an image that's fairly flat, and I have my info and my histogram open. You can access these through your window menu, and as you see, I have them selected here, and under the histogram I have the luminosity selected. By default you will have colors selected, but go right ahead and select luminosity so that this matches up better with your levels. Now I'm utilize my sampler tool to actually choose which areas are the darkest and which areas are the brightest in my image. Now all these are points to help you remember where the darkest areas are and where the blackest areas are. And this is going to be an exercise to get you to kind of move around your image and find out what is really darker and what is really brighter in your image, because what you see visually may not be the brighter portion or the darker portion. I've already laid down points here. I'm going to take them off temporarily just so that we can do it from scratch so you can see exactly what's happening here. I'm going to do that by holding the Option key down. You get scissors and it will delete these points off here. Okay. All right. So we're going to start fresh. Right over third tool down on the right hand side, click and hold, grab the color sampler tool. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go try to find the darkest area of my image as well as the brighter area of my image, and I'm going to use my info palette to assist me. Option and spacebar, hold it down. I'm going to zoom down just a little bit here. Let's move this on over to the right just a little bit more. There we are. And I have a little closer view of my detail, which will help me to assist me a lot easier in selecting these darker and brighter tones. All I'm going to do now, I want you to pay attention to the RGB values right over here in the info palette. As I mouse over, and I'm not clicking or anything, I'm just hovering over these areas, you'll see the numerical equivalents change to show me what the RGB values of the area that I am sitting on top of. Now as I come over to here, I can see these values are getting fairly low, closer to 11. That looks pretty good. If I come over here and look at some of these darker areas, I'm looking at the tip of that eyedropper. They're really not as dark as you would think. The human eye says, hey, they're pretty dark, but it really isn't. It's because these brighter tones are sitting next to an even brighter tone, and the juxtaposition of them makes it look like that they're deeper than they really are. Over in here, there's not quite as dark as I want, and I'm gonna pull down toward the bottom and measure some of these areas, and I'm finding out that these are not really as dark. The darkest area I have is right up here in the top, and I have a 7. I'm gonna see if I can grab that 7 right there. Well, we got close enough. Actually, I'm gonna get rid of this one. Hold the Option key, click it, and let's find that there's a 9 right about there. It's kind of, well, I'll tell you, we'll go with the 18. It's close enough. Now it laid down a sampler point that does nothing. All that does is basically serves as a reference. Let's go and actually find the highlight. If I mouse over the highlights, I have 255 for red, green, and blue value. If you take a look at it under the RGB value, under the info palette. So go ahead and click down on it. Now take a look on the bottom here. What has happened? It gave us the values for both it's giving us a value for both the number 1 point and the number 2 point. 1830 34 and 255 for the number 2 point. This is where they're located, so that's helped us quite a bit. Now let's go ahead and I'm gonna zoom in a little closer so I can see the points a little more accurately. Number 1, number 2. Now this is where we get into levels. Let's use our Command or Control L to open up our levels, or shortcut, or You can go to your image menu, adjustments, and levels is right over in here. Okay, it's already open, so take a look at our histogram. As you can see, it pretty much resembles the histogram we have open over here. And here we have our 256 shades of gray. Now, the way we're reading this is, if we want to know how much of this particular shade of gray exists in this particular image, then the higher the amount, the more of that gray is in there. If that's true, if we take a look at the areas that are black, do we have much information in there? Darker information? No. Look at this. It's pretty much non-existent. A little bit here in the bottom, but not much. What about the highlights? We have some, but not much. It seems like the whole image is dominated with medium gray. All right. So just to show you how we can manually adjust a deeper black, let's go to your black eyedropper, not eyedropper, but the black slider here, the little triangular point, and we have a medium gray as well as a white. If I want to reestablish a deeper tone, click the black slider, bring it on over. Let's actually turn on the preview so we can see what we're doing, right? And let's move it on over. You see that the further we bring it over into these values, it starts to establish a deeper black. And the same thing for the white. If I bring the white slider over, it starts to establish a brighter white. All right. Okay, so we can do it manually. Your midtone, let's go ahead and establish a brighter white. In your midtone, you can take out midtone or you can add midtone to your image. So you're going to adjust this to taste. All right, so what we're going to do, I'm going to hold the Option key down, Option or Alt. That'll give you the reset where the cancel used to be. Click it and undo what I've done. What I want to do is calibrate these eyedroppers so that I can click on these points to give it the black that I want and the white that we want. The goal here is to have a nice black with detail as well as a white with detail. Now, I'm going to double click on the black eyedropper and we're going to calibrate this to give us the details or information that we need in our darker tones without losing detail. Double click on the eyedropper, and as you can see, it's calibrated 777 for red, green, and blue. I've already done that. By default, you're going to see 000 on your machine if you have not calibrated these. Now, 000, as you already know, gives you black with no detail. Now, do we want no detail? No, we don't. We want a black with detail. So, instead of using 0 for your red, green, and blue calibration points, what we're going to do is we're going to put in 7. We're going to make it slightly brighter than black with no detail. So we still have a nice rich black, but we still can get perceivable details. So by putting in 777, you can look at my little circle over here, my color picker is slightly above absolute black with detail. All right, I'm going to click OK. Next, I'm going to calibrate my white eyedropper. Double click it. And as you can see, I went 7 points down from 255. Instead of 255, it is now 248 for the red, green, and blue details. Once again, look at the little circle on your color picker, and you'll see that it's dropped down slightly below absolute white with no detail. Once it's done, click OK. Now, what do we do here? We've already selected the area that we want to be serve as absolute black with detail, and we also selected the location that will be our white with detail. Now notice over here on our info palette, we now have 2 sets of numbers when we opened up level. What's going to happen is the first set is going to represent the number that serves as the original color or value. The second set will be the number that is actually making those values become. All right, so I'm going to start with the black point, put the black point over 1. Now take a look at the RGB values, and if I click and release, look at the value right now at the top for RGB. It's 777. It was pretty close to 777 there, and now there it is, 777 right in the middle, and down on the bottom it changed it to these numbers to where the number 1 point, 11, 7, and 9, as close as it could to 777. Now we're going to come back down here to number 2, And again, look at the number 2 point. It's 255 for RGB on both sides of the slash. And we're going to select the white eyedropper. Click that there. And you take a look at it. 255 has now become 248. And once again, the number 1 point, the 18, 30, and 34 has now become 11, 6, and 9. All right. So it's increased our contrast, as you can see. Let's hit our controller command 0 so we can see the whole thing. Let's see the preview to before and after, before and after. Okay, we've just calibrated using our black points. Now, when you click OK on your machine, it's going to ask you, do you actually want to keep these target points? You say yes, and it's going to keep those RGB value targets forever until you physically go in and change. So if you open up another image, those targets will be the same. Let's click OK. We've applied it to the new layer. As you can see, it's also color balanced it in that it neutralized the black, the darker tones, and it neutralized the whites as well. All right, so before and after, before and after. All right, I hope you enjoyed that, and stay tuned. I'll have more video tutorials on the use of levels and calibration points for your photographic images. I'm Stephen Burns. Enjoy.